Dr. Brandi Cole, thank you for joining Tribe Talk for today. I reckon this is going to be pretty cool. So let's kick off. We're going to be talking about, obviously, perimenopause today. And the reason we're doing that is the average age of a Tribe member is like 47, so kind of in that sweet spot, 60% female. But before we get into all that, tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I thought when you said it, obviously, is that because I look perimenopausal?
No.
Is that?
No, you do not.
So I am 44, so I'm creeping into that age group very quickly. Probably not creeping, accelerating into that age group. So I'm a sport and exercise physician, which is a specialist doctor. So when I was at school, I just wanted to work in sport. Thought I might try and be a professional athlete. Wasn't that good. So
At what?
well, anything really. I just wanted to go to the Olympics. But my sports were hockey, OzTag and beach sprinting.
Yep.
So hockey being the Olympic sport of those. But I didn't really want to commit to what you had to do. So I sort of just thought of other avenues. But consequently, I had a lot of injuries. So spent a lot of time with my physiotherapist from probably the age of 16. And then that made me think I wanted to be a physio. And so I did physiotherapy and then looked at the way, sort of the lifestyle of that and thought, maybe there's more to it, or maybe that's not quite for me, in a clinic all the time. So then ended up going back and studying medicine,
Right.
which is ironic because I didn't want to be a doctor when my dad said to me, why don't you put medicine down as your preference rather than physio? And I said, well, I don't like sick people and I don't like hospitals. So so sports medicine is great because mostly people are well with one or two problems that I can help them with.
Yep.
And I don't work in a hospital. So I've come a full circle. It's, lots of, so 2 uni degrees plus specialty training and a PhD. So 20 years of study.
Awesome.
And
And you've been involved with sporting teams, right, over the years?
Yeah.
Run us through that.
Yeah, so probably the two most prominent in the media are the Roosters, so the NRL Sydney Roosters I worked with for 3 years, and the Matildas. So I was the team doctor for the Matildas from COVID, so from 2021 when it opened back up till the end of last year. So went to Tokyo and Paris Olympics with them and the Home World Cup as well, and 2 Asian Cups.
And what was that schedule like with the Matildas?
So lots of travel. So it's not a full-time position. So I was still working. I have my own clinic and I was still working in my clinic. But there is a major tournament 3 of every 4 years that goes for anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks that I'm in camp with them, plus 6 2-week stints a year as well. So it ended up that I was traveling away about half of the year for the last 6 years.
Yeah, right. And then you mentioned your clinic. So tell us about that. What does that look like?
So it's called Shire Sports Medicine. It's in the heart of the Shire, just up the road. So I always wanted to work close. I've grown up, born and raised here, and always wanted to sort of work close to home and wanted to bring the idea of what we give to professional athletes, but bring it to the community. So I have a clinic that I see anyone from elite athletes, school age athletes to I think my oldest patient has been 92 years old.
Wow. Cool.
And he was playing golf up to the age of 90 where he had a hip replacement and he was having trouble getting back to the level where he could go back to golf. And so his GP thought that I could help him, and I did.
Cool.
And he got back to golf.
And then favourite sport to watch?
It's an interesting question because I watch sport for work now. I tend not to watch sport much anymore, I've realised. So
you're not with any sporting teams at the moment?
So at the moment this year, I've watched my children play sport,
that's cool.
which is nice. I still watch like a doctor, so I watch behind the play and check all the people on the ground. I'm yet to sort of let that go. Yeah. But my favourite sport to watch is any team that I'm working for because I get to sit on the bench with the players and watch it. And you're not really watching the game for the game the way you are as a fan. You're watching the players and for their welfare. But I will say that the World Cup, that penalty shootout that I probably don't have to explain because everyone knows. Yeah. So I got to stand on the sideline of the field for that. And that's the one time where probably unless they're going to have a cardiac arrest, they don't really need me in that moment. So I could watch it as a fan.
Enjoy it.
And it was just the highlight of my career, I think. And I had to stop myself because I think you've seen footage of all the girls running together at the end when they won, and I nearly ran out with them. I thought, no, I'm not a player. I can't do that.
And then, I don't know if you can answer this one, but favourite, well, last question, then we'll get into the perimenopause stuff. But do you have a favourite sports person that you've worked with, or if they're all listening, maybe 3?
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't, and I think that you probably. I'll tell you why. If I said to you which one of your children is your favorite,
I've got a favorite. Yeah.
Oh, you've got a favorite. Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. Well, don't answer that question then. I only have 2 children, and they're very different, but neither of them are my favorite. They're both just so when you have one child, you think, how am I going to love another child?
Right. So that's the same with
it just expands. So for everyone that I work for, I could probably tell you a few people that push my buttons a little bit and a few deep breaths to work with. But in terms of favorites, it's not the way you see them.
Yeah, cool.
They're all really inspirational, and I love that's my favorite part of the job is
and
working
do you reckon
with them.
You're done with sports teams?
Oh, no, absolutely.
No, yeah, it doesn't sound
You
like
don't
it.
become a sports
Yeah.
agent. I probably work at the Olympics at HQ in LA, I think, but you can go and work for Team Australia as opposed to working for a sport.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done 2 Olympics as a team doctor, so you're sort of there the same way as the athletes, but now I want to go and do it the opposite way, which is in the village, in our medical hub, so that you're sort of helping out all of the athletes that need the help. So
Okay. So let's dive into it. So what's actually physically happening in the body through perimenopause, and like when does it typically start?
Yeah. So perimenopause means before menopause.
Yep.
And menopause is the definition of menopause is 1 year after your last period. Yep. So you don't know you're in menopause until after it's happened, I suppose.
Gotcha.
And so perimenopause is the whole time up to that point.
Yep.
And
so menopause is just like a single moment in time almost. Right. And then
you're either, if you're postmenopausal, it's because you've had more than a year since your last period. Yep. So menopause, I guess, is a day if you were to track it. But and so perimenopause is the time leading up to that. And it can be it's a variable length of time, but it can be up to 10 years. So typically it's mid-40s.
Okay.
So around sort of 45 to 55 would be the perimenopausal period, with the average age of menopause being around 50 to 52.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have perimenopausal symptoms before 40, it's actually considered something different. It's sort of premature ovarian failure, I suppose. So it's the same thing, but it's a different term.
Yeah. And then you mentioned symptoms. So let's run us through the most common symptoms.
So a lot of the symptoms are related to the changing hormones, and the 2 main hormones that most people will know about are estrogen and progesterone. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the symptoms are to do with the fluctuations in those hormones. I think estrogen is a bit more famous than progesterone for the cause, but they can both be culprits. And there's a whole host of symptoms across all of the different body systems. I think the most famous again are the hot flushes and the mood changes and the changes to bone density and things like, and lots of different musculoskeletal pain, change in sleep, but it's quite varied and it's very hard to measure. And I think the problem is that there's no symptoms that are just specific to perimenopause. So when they creep up on you and you're not aware, you can always attribute it to something else.
Yeah, like just tired and busy, for example. Right.
And it could be because you're tired and busy, or it could be because you're perimenopausal.
Yeah.
And there's no test to tell you which one, and that's why it's really, really confusing.
I kind of thought today, like I'm interviewing a male, interviewing you about perimenopause, but I think it's good because I reckon maybe some of the audience might be guys who are supporting their family or whatever it might be as well. So forgive me if I ask some stupid questions.
Do you know what? There isn't a stupid question, so absolutely not.
But like the whole, when a woman feels like she might be, entering perimenopause, like does she go and see a GP or have a conversation or look for tests or anything like that? Like do they actually do anything, or they're just like, this is happening and they?
Yeah. So good question. So I think that probably in the last 5 years, there's been so much more awareness, like 5 to 10 years, and I think that's the best thing because this has been happening for centuries.
Why do you reckon the awareness has increased in the last 5 years?
Things like this.
Yeah.
Social media, access to more information. People are talking about it.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing. So you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so without conversations like this, someone can be sitting there thinking, oh, I'm just a cranky old lady now.
Yeah.
And it's like, they might hear a conversation like this and think, I wonder if my mood change is because I am going through perimenopause. And so with the awareness then comes the conversations.
Yeah.
And then that then leads people to say, well, I had this and I went and saw this person and they did this. And there's a lot more of that now. So what I'm finding is a lot of the women that I see are coming to me and they're saying, I think I'm in perimenopause. This is the reasons why. This is what I want to do. But I've gone to see my GP and they have just dismissed it or something like that. Now, I'm not saying that all GPs dismiss it. There's a lot of really good doctors out there. But sometimes the general population catch up quicker than the medical population on some things.
Yeah.
And then also it's very, to your second point, it's very hard to measure it. So,
are you actually,
So we know that the symptoms are from fluctuating estrogen.
Yeah.
Whereas I think there's one of the sort of misconceptions is that estrogen is this really level trajectory from where it should be down to nothing.
Yeah.
And so then it's sort of like, well, why can't we measure and see where it is? But it doesn't work that way. What happens is in our bodies, in our ovaries, we've got follicles which become the eggs, which is then become the children. You're born with every follicle you'll ever have or every egg you'll ever have. The estrogen is dropping off gradually over time, but it's not a linear drop. And so we know that when we're low in estrogen, and there's other hormones that are in the hypothalamus that are involved as well, that we are menopausal. But to get from normal estrogen levels to low in estrogen, it actually spikes up and down and up and down and up and down. So you can't just say, let's do a blood test and see how much estrogen I've got. Because if you catch it on a high spike, it'll look normal or high. And then you can dismiss the symptoms and go, oh, it's not perimenopause because your estrogen's normal. Or if you catch it on a low, it might be a different part of the cycle too. So it's not as easy as just a simple blood test. And that's what makes it hard because you've got symptoms that overlap with symptoms that are a cause of other. So poor sleep. I mean, you could rattle off 10 reasons why someone could be sleeping poorly. One of them is perimenopause. Mood disturbance. There's a whole lot of reasons why you could have mood disturbance. One of them is perimenopause. Hot flushes at night. That tends to be one that women recognize because there's not a lot of things other than fever that wakes you up. And I'm talking like drenching sweats where you have to wake up and change your pajamas if you're wearing them. So we're becoming more aware of those symptoms. And I think what it is if you've got a cluster of symptoms and you're ticking more than one or two or three of them, and it's something that's changed in that phase of your life and you're in the right age group, then what we're seeing is, okay, let's reach out to your GP, which is your first port of call, and then looking at what we can do about the symptoms. And really it's caused by the hormones. So one of the options is to hormone replacement.
So treatment. When you say we look at the options with the GP on what to do, is HRT like the main option, and what does that do?
So HRT, which I think we've just had a change to call it MRT, menopause replacement therapy instead of hormone replacement therapy.
Is that because? Oh no, carry on. I've got a question about in the early 2000s. Did it come out in regards to like there were negative consequences of HRT?
Yeah, good question. You've done your research.
I should have pretended that was just off the cuff. But
So good question. So hormones. So again, the hormones we're talking about that we replace are estrogen and progesterone. Now they're the same hormones that we use in hormonal contraceptive pills. So when we use them in hormonal contraceptive pills, they're synthetic versions of the hormones. And they're tablet form. So the aim when you're taking the contraceptive pill is to prevent ovulation, which therefore prevents pregnancy. That's higher doses needed than what you need to help with the symptoms of menopause. And then the opposite to a synthetic version of a drug is a version that's very similar to the version we have in our body. And so with hormone replacement therapy or menopausal replacement therapy, it's usually the estrogen is by a gel or a patch. So it's not you're not swallowing the tablet. In the body, that means that it goes through a different metabolic pathway. So it's not going via the liver and getting broken down. So it's going straight into the bloodstream. It's lower dose and it acts differently on the body. So it has different risk profiles. And then same with progesterone, which is the other tablet. You can, other hormone in the tablets, you can take it orally or you can, the Mirena, for instance, is something that emits it. That's an intrauterine device that emits progesterone. So it's not just what hormone is it, it's the form of the hormone and it's how is it delivered to the body, and they all make a difference. So in that trial in 2001, I think it was, they thought, maybe we can help prevent or help, health benefits of menopause by giving women hormone replacement. But what they did was they got, on average, they were age 63, so they were well past menopause.
Right.
And they gave them the oral form equivalent to the hormonal contraception.
Yeah.
And so the doses were probably too high and it was probably too late.
Yeah.
And what I find fascinating from the literature is that if you give estrogen to help with menopause in perimenopause or in the first, before the age of 60 essentially, then it can have beneficial effects on systems in the body that it can actually have detrimental effects on if you wait till after 60 and have it via tablets.
And
so the same thing can have the opposite effect.
Yeah. So we were misinformed in 2001, 2002 because they were 60.
They got alarmed and they did it on the wrong population. And so quite rightly they stopped the trial because they thought, there's an increased risk of breast cancer, for instance, an increased risk of adverse cardiovascular effects.
Yeah.
Now we've got so much more information. I mean, it's 25 years later. Yeah. But the problem is that these things stick around and there's a lot of, people, particularly in the medical industry, say, no, that happened. We don't talk about that. There's too much risk. And it's like, I think some things that our parents did with us, we don't do now, but some things we realised are actually okay.
So MRT is more commonly accepted, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is, and I think it's a choice.
Yeah. Does everyone go down this path?
No, certainly not. Yeah. But I think everyone should be offered the option of going down the path because.
Why would someone not?
There's a lot of stigma around taking hormones. So for women to take hormones, I guess it's similar to saying, why would you not have a vaccine to prevent a disease if the disease is bad? It's personal preference. Yep. It's fear and it's misinformation and it's not being informed, I suppose. I'm certainly someone who is absolutely give me any hormone that I need. If it's something that I've had my whole life and I'm now deficient in it, why not? But I completely understand women who would prefer not to. I think the problem is that a lot of it's this whole you should be natural response, but natural was we're born, we start reproducing, we reproduce until we run out of reproductive capacity and then we die.
Yeah.
And that means that we're born and we start having children at the age of around 15 or 16 and then we stop having children at 40 and we die at 45. Like that's not our life anymore. So we've got, if we're talking about menopause at 50, we've got another good 30 years at least. Like I'm hoping to live till 80. So 30 years, that's my best years by the time I'm 50. Why not make them the best I can? That's my view.
So you mentioned hot flushes, mood swings. What other symptoms?
So there's so the symptoms are things like muscle aches, pains, like symptoms are things that the woman experiences. Yeah. But the problem is that the biggest problems from a health point of view, you won't have symptoms at the time of the menopause. So what I'm talking specifically about here is bone health and cardiovascular health. So with bone health, your bone density rapidly starts declining once the estrogen reduces, but you won't have any symptoms of that until you get a fracture. Yeah. But if you get we call it a pathological fracture, if you fracture without actually having, a fall or something like that, by the time you realize that, my bone density is really low and that's why I've fallen over and I've broken my hip and now I have to have a hip replacement and now I've got pneumonia because I've had my hip replacement and I've been lying in hospital. They're like that. It's not too late. It's never too late, but it's a lot harder to manage that than to manage it when it starts to happen. So we have a saying in medicine, prevention is better than cure. Yeah. And for bone health, that's important because peak bone mass is at the age of 19 years old. So you try telling a 19-year-old that, they've got to protect their 50 to 60-year-old self. It's very hard to understand that. You still increase bone mass up to the age of 30, but then once you get to your 40s and then you go through perimenopause, you actually start to lose bone mass quite rapidly. And once you hit menopause, it's something like 2 to 3% of bone mass per year that you're losing. And that's related to the lack of estrogen. Yeah. So we can tie most of the symptoms of perimenopause and most of the problems, the health problems of perimenopause, back to the lack of estrogen. Yeah. Because there's estrogen receptors in everything. So again, if we talk about a symptom like muscle, joint, tendon pain, there's estrogen receptors in all of those tissues. So then as they start to have less estrogen, there's less, it's like having all these locks but not enough keys. So you can only open the doors at as many keys as you've got. So then you start to have an imbalance of what those receptors' job was, and so we start to have more inflammation. It's like pro-inflammatory cascade, and then you have more pain. So, and I see that in clinic, that women come in their late 40s, early 50s, who have done the same exercise, the same lifestyle, the same diet, everything their whole life, and then suddenly they're getting more injuries, they're getting more pain, their joints are just aching, their tendons are hurting. And it's not that
I don't hear that a lot, the joint pain. Is that's quite common?
Yeah, I think it's probably, for me, I'm seeing tendon pain more than joint pain, but it's common for both. I think that maybe people don't recognize what joint pain is, so they might have it and not tell
just training
you.
regime or whatever it
And
might
that's the
be.
thing. It's sort of like when you've done a really, really hard workout and you just know your body's aching, but you know it's going to recover in a few days if you do recovery right. That's the daily cycle indefinitely in that period of time.
Yeah.
If you don't do anything about it.
So we're missing any other symptoms? I just want to get these, so joint pain, we've got loss of muscle, bone density, mood, hot flushes. Are they the main?
Yeah, I guess so. You've got things, so your psychological and then your physical symptoms, and your physical symptoms are for your bones, your joints, your tendons, your ligaments, your heart, your muscles. Yeah, I mean it's pretty much everything.
And then MRT, how does that help with the symptoms?
So the symptoms are caused because there's less estrogen floating around.
Yep.
So there's less, so the receptors are going unanswered. So the way I explain it is, if you've got 20 rooms with doors in them and you need people to get into the rooms as quickly as possible, if I give you 20 keys, then you're going to get into all rooms all at once. If I give you one key, you're going to have to unlock one door, then unlock the next door, and then unlock the next door. It's going to take a lot longer. So if we're starting with 20 keys, perimenopause is, now we've got 18, now we've got 15, now we've got 12, now we've got 8. We get down to 3.
Right.
And then you walk up and go, hey, here's 20 keys that I just found. Do you want these? That's the replacement.
Okay.
So it's your body is running out of estrogen because the eggs that you were born with, that was what I was going to say to you before. So every woman is born with every egg they're ever going to have. My daughter finds that absolutely fascinating. She said, Mum, you were born with me in you and I already have my kids in me. And I said, yep, absolutely. And so as we age, those eggs are older. So all my eggs are 44 years old now. I don't want any more children, so that's fine. But so as they age, some of them, every cycle you release an egg if everything's working perfectly, and then that egg helps with the hormones as well. So some of the hormones come from the body and some of them come from that egg being released and that cycle. So when you have some cycles that are anovulatory, so we're not releasing an egg, then you don't have the hormones that you're meant to have. So that starts off the problem. And so then it's sort of this ongoing sort of downward spiral where you're not having as much hormone in your body, and then that has impacts back to the brain that then cycles around. So it all comes from there. And so the hormone replacement just reduces the impact of that fluctuating hormone level.
A lot?
A lot, yeah.
Right. So it's significant impact.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. It's people who aren't having the significant impact. So it's like saying, does having a child hurt? So some women will be like, you don't need pain relief. And some women will be like, oh my God, it was the worst thing I've ever been through.
It comes down to the individual.
So it comes down to the individual. But the thing is, it's about symptoms. So if you are having symptoms, only you will know how they're impacting your life. But if you are having symptoms that are impacting your life, then the HRT will help. That's what it's designed to do.
Yeah.
If you're not having symptoms, you don't need it because you're treating the symptoms. However, as we said before, there's the problems of the symptoms and then there's the health problems. Yeah. The health problems like the bone density, you don't have symptoms of that initially, but that will definitely be detrimental over time, and the hormone replacement will actually help that as well. So it reduces the risks, the future risks for the problems of menopause, even if you're not experiencing them now.
Okay. And then what about body composition? Obviously, I'm in the fitness industry and we see a lot of people in this period of their life, not all of a sudden, but, start to maybe gain a little bit of body fat, not as happy with their, it's not all about aesthetics, definitely like pleasingly, a lot of more people these days train to feel good and for their energy levels. But let's face it, that's still a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wanting to look good.
Yep.
But the common conversation I'll have with a lot of people is like a lot of ladies is like, I'm doing everything right, Mark. Like I'm doing everything right, but it's just not budging.
Yeah.
Like, do you hear that? What do you?
Oh yeah, it's very real, and there's two parts to that. The first part is usually they're under eating and they're doing the wrong type of training. So we'll circle back to that.
Yeah.
But more weights training, more strength training, eat more protein,
Love it.
less cardio. That's the answer.
Yeah.
The reason is because women in the reproductive years, so childbearing years, our bodies are designed to store fat around our hips and pelvis. So that's the typical pear shape. And all of the hormone systems are set up to do that. And then when everything changes with the hormone changes, it actually shifts. And so what happens is the women might feel like, oh yeah, I've actually got less. My hips are narrower than they ever have been, but my tummy is bigger. And so it shifts.
In this perimenopause.
Yeah, perimenopause and menopause. So it shifts the body actually shifts to storing what we call visceral adipose tissue or adipose tissue fat. So it's a shift to storing fat around the organs and the belly as opposed to the hips. And that's what the women experience. And it's a very real thing, and it's related to the lack of estrogen. But the good thing is exercise and strength training specifically can actually combat the effects of lack of estrogen. And the combination of, if you use HRT and exercise, the strength training has an additive benefit effect. So it's not irreversible, and it's not sort of, you just have to accept that because you're 50 now, but it's very real. Yeah. But the problem, I think, is that women notice this change, and I think society, we have attributed total calorie intake to weight gain. And so they try and reduce calories, which is no good, and often women undereat on protein to start with. And in actual fact, women in perimenopause and menopause need double the protein that a young athlete needs. So not only do we need to eat more protein than we actually are, we need to eat even more. And it's hard for women to understand that. And it's actually hard to do if you've never done it, to sort of shift what you're eating.
So I talk to a lot of women about protein intake, right? So we're talking grams of protein per day. And I agree with the whole calorie thing. Like I do see a lot of people overtraining and undereating on calories, and that's a recipe for disaster. But with the protein, when you say double, I just go straight to, wow, like 100 to 140 grams of protein in a day, roughly, loosely, for a woman who's weight training, 2 to 3 times a week. Steps are high. She's active with 2 or 3 children, working and all that sort of stuff. Are you saying like more than that with protein?
So in medicine, we talk about grams of protein per kilogram of fat-free body mass, which is hard to tell.
Yeah. But so if it's like a 70 kilo female, and we're going to try and get her fat-free mass, like, I don't know, if she's 20% body fat, how good's our maths? 20% body fat.
Yeah, so 10% 7, so 14. So you got to go to 56.
And then are we going off 56 or?
Yeah, I mean,
ish?
Yeah, like I think that's a bit, we don't have to get so nuanced of that. But the general population should be 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram fat-free mass. Yeah. And we're talking like 1.5 to 2, maybe up to 2.2 grams per kilogram. Yeah. So we often use.
Okay, so we're in that bracket.
So what you said was
140, not
pretty good.
Yeah.
But you'll probably find that a lot of women aren't doing that.
Yeah.
And then it's the timing of when they have the protein. And so what I find is that a lot of women try and fast or try to undereat, and then they get to the end of the day and then they're starving, and then they eat too much just before they go to bed. So the thing that I find the most is I'm telling a lot of my patients, no matter what demographic they are, eat more in the morning and early for when you're then going to be active, but also eat around your training.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of us are training first thing in the morning now. It's just better for lifestyle. And then people are rushing off to work or rushing to do the kids, and they're not eating and replenishing the protein.
Yeah.
And specifically in perimenopause and menopause, the window of that increased metabolic rate of protein synthesis and muscle recovery after training is shorter. So what I would say is
compared to 15, 20 years ago.
Compared to when they were younger. So it's like more protein closer to when you work out, and especially if it's in the morning.
Yeah. So you mean closer when you're working, so eating after?
Eating, because training is basically breaking down muscle micro damage, which then your body rebuilds. As you go through perimenopause and menopause, you get less efficient at doing that.
Yeah.
And you need more substrate available to do the same job, essentially. And so it's more important to have the protein and to have it closer to the training.
So if you do like a strength training session yourself,
Me,
are you eating what and how long after? Are you eating within 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
So I will I just use collagen and then whey protein as the two things that I use. So I'll have collagen before my training session.
Yep.
Theoretically, it's 45 minutes before. I am not a morning person. My alarm's already going off at 4:30 a.m. I am not getting up and drinking any earlier than that.
No.
So I'll drink my collagen before I go into the strength session, and then ideally a protein shake straight after.
Yeah. What's straight after? Is it in the car on the way home or?
Yeah, like literally at the gym.
Yeah. Cool.
Fill it up, drink it.
Bang, done.
And then there's a coffee.
Yeah.
Which
What's
is what
your
I'm
go-to
dreaming.
coffee?
What I'm dreaming. I only started drinking coffee at the age of 42, which is hilarious.
Wow.
If only doctor that ever went through 20 years of study without drinking coffee, I was an English breakfast tea girl. It's a double shot strong 3/4 latte now. I've gone for it. Yeah. And then it's like a big. So I'll have a big breakfast of eggs, avocado, that sort of thing. And then I'll actually then have. And it depends on work, but sometimes I'll have 2 meals close together. But sometimes there is a couple of hours between my gym and my shake and then my breakfast of logistics, life, whatever. But I don't delay lunch. So no matter when I have that first meal, that second meal is about the same time. So I'm having that sort of intake and then the meals are reducing as you get later in the day.
Yeah. So protein shake, then breakfast, then a good lunch, and they're all protein based.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned before, okay, so we're in this period of our life, perimenopause, strength training, yes. What about creatine, just quickly? Do you take creatine?
I don't. I would. I absolutely think the benefits of it are there. I don't like you retain about a litre of fluid.
Yep.
And to me, I don't want an extra kilo.
Of that. Yeah.
It's like I'm a fairly heavy person, like as in I think, people are either dense or not dense. Like if you look at me and then you look at someone that probably looks the same weight as me, they might be 5 kilos lighter. So the extra kilo for my training, I notice it.
Yep.
But there's so many benefits of creatine for both energy but also for brain recovery. There's so much research into that. So I'm an advocate for it. I just don't take it myself.
We talk a lot about it at Tribe, like weight training, yes. I'm a big advocate of high volume, low to moderate cardio, like steps, like walking. Where's your thoughts on the hard cardio, 1 or 2 HIIT type sessions a week? Are you saying 0 of that? Meaning, do you know what I mean by it? Like a hard HIIT session, like a high rocks type session, or get on the ski erg, the ski erg, assault bike, rower. Those 30-minute to 40-minute hard HIIT sessions have been frowned upon, from what I'm hearing, a little bit when it comes to women perimenopause. Is this a thing or not? Should it be just weight training and walking and protein?
You're asking someone who's about to do a high rocks on the weekend.
Yes. Solo or in a team?
Oh, hell no. I'm a sprinter, so I need that little rest and recovery. I'm 2 and I'm going to do the mixed, so I'm going up in the weights, which
Love that. Oh, yeah, that's a lot.
The sleds. Anyway, so I always say to people, like, when you ask a question or when you have a statement, it's like, why? Like, why are we asking that? So that's a very broad question, and I understand why you're asking it.
Yeah,
but
I'm talking strictly from a body fat reduction or maintenance of composition point of view, because I love HIIT cardio for mood and energy and endorphin release and fitness. Love that and advocate that for sure. But like if there's a lady who's 73 kilos and she just wants to get to 71, 70, and we're not all about fat loss, by the way, at Tribe. I'm not trying to throw that down anyone's throat, but it's still of a talking point. If you were to give a good training program for that person to lose 3 kilos and it's not budging,
how old was she? Perimenopausal.
She's 45.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's interesting. And that's the thing. It's all about what the goal is. So that's good, because now I understand what the question is based on the goal.
Yeah.
The second thing is we need to move away from talking about weight, because weight is technically what's on the scales.
Yep.
So weight is a force, but we equate it to mass, which is what we're seeing on the scales. If you lose body fat and gain muscle,
Yeah.
you will look better,
Yeah.
your measurements will be smaller, and you will be heavier.
Yeah. We're winning
So
at that point, though, right?
we are. So my first point is, let's not talk about it
How
as
do you
weight.
measure body fat? Like, how do you do it? You've
So
got like an in-body scan.
So
thing
you
at
can do
Tribe.
in-body scan,
Yeah.
or you can do, so we can do that. But
Yeah.
I also think women are quite, we can become quite obsessive about things.
Yeah.
So you've got to pick the
It's a
person,
good
because
point.
if you measure body fat, then they will be so obsessed about that body
Yeah,
fat,
that's a
and
really
that
good
can be
point.
really unhealthy. And so I will pick my, I'll get a sense of whether this person's very likely to sort of jump on and go not so well in terms of becoming more obsessive and then creating problems. At the end of the day, I absolutely agree. We want to feel good. We want to look good. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think we feel good when we feel healthy, and we look good when we have more muscle and less body fat. And I think just simple like circumference measures are great.
Yeah.
And basically you don't even have to measure the circumference. It's like, how are you fitting your clothes?
Yeah.
So
that's a
I
big
tell
one.
women to really, and it's not about what size on the label, which a lot of women, oh, now I'm a size. It's like, I can't tell whether I'm a size 6 or a size 12. It depends on, that's what's written on the label. That means nothing. But if you've got clothing that you used to fit last year and you no longer fit, then the goal can be to fit that piece of clothing. That's a great goal. And if you suddenly fit that piece of clothing, you're doing well. So I actually make it less data-driven, less medicalized, because otherwise we become so obsessive on that we don't enjoy it. And it becomes I've got to do this to get there. They get there and they just bounce back.
Good point.
So winding back then, if the goal is to gain more muscle and lose fat, which is not only healthy, it actually works for you. So muscle is metabolically active after you exercise, fat is not.
Yep.
So you're only burning calories when you're exercising and when you're just full of body fat. But the more muscle you've got, it'll actually work metabolically for you to burn more calories afterwards. Yep. So the more that you can replace fat with muscle, not only is it healthier for you, it's more beneficial, it protects your body for so many different ways, it then also works in a positive way for you to then actually be using more of that energy. But that's where you've got to replace the energy. So if you are under eating and you're using more energy, you actually go into battery saver mode, like what you do. You put your iPhone in battery saver mode. I don't know what it doesn't do. It works fine for me. The battery lasts longer, but there's a reason why it's inbuilt to turn it off when you charge it, because it's not good for it to be in battery saver mode all day, every day.
What do you define? This is going to open up a dog's breakfast. We might cut this one out, but like under eating, how do you define that? How do you define under eating? Do you talk calories? Do you talk someone's mood, their energy?
Yeah. So is that like I tell every woman who's active to see a dietitian and get a review, because absolutely, and this goes to athletes too. So there's something called relative energy deficiency in sport.
Yeah.
And most athletes who come in with bone stress injuries are in that state. Low energy availability is what it is. So you're not eating enough for your training. People say, oh, it's overtraining. It's actually very rare to train too much. What we're doing is not eating enough for our training. It's very hard. If you're eating enough for your training, you'd have to be a professional athlete to have enough time to train too much to get overtraining.
Correct. So it's not coming from overtraining.
No, it's coming from under eating for the training. But it's on the fear of, or the training starts because you're trying to lose weight, which we're saying now is trying to change body composition, trying to get in shape, trying to get healthy. And then it's very hard for women to know that actually if you increase your food intake and increase your protein intake, you will lose body fat and gain muscle. And it is actually a fact.
Counterintuitive,
but
it's true.
it is. And that's the fear.
Yeah.
And so that's where I say go and work with a dietitian so that you can understand how much you're actually eating, when you should eat it, and why.
I'm just going to talk calories for a sec. And I know it's an interesting subject, but I don't know how, but a lot of women that I speak to, they're in this 12 to 14, 1,500 calorie bracket thing and way too low. I've just got a good example of a tribe member recently, 43, and I just said, so she's like the one that wants to just drop a couple of kilos or get into a better dress size, whatever it might, or, clothes fit better. And I just said, what I want you to do for the next month is just go and just eat to what you feel is good, healthy food, like eating like a responsible adult, to satisfaction. Eat to satisfaction. Let's take away trying to get into a calorie deficit. Just do that. Just eat to satisfaction and trying to get protein in most meals. And she did that for 4 weeks. So there was no calorie counting. There's no writing it down. She was just thinking, okay, healthy food, eat like a responsible adult, eat to satisfaction, try and get protein. And she lost like 2 or 3 kilos. And for her, that was good and clothes fitting better. But I actually then got her to verbalise what she was eating to me, and she was eating 2,400 calories. And I thought, that is awesome, meaning she's eating up and she lost weight. Love hearing that.
You just proved my point.
Yeah.
I don't know why that 1,500 comes in, like a lot of people come into me and say that 1,500 and then they go to 1,200. You have to be at 2,200 minimum.
Yeah.
If you're doing anything.
Love hearing that.
And so that's sounds really alarming when my patients sit in front of me and they're like, what? And they get scared. But what's the even better message is the one that you just gave.
Yeah, 2,400.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I find it interesting, and just to speak about this for a tick, it's like I'll say to someone, if they want to lose body fat or they want to lose a bit of weight, it's like they tell me they want to eat 1,600 calories because 1,600 has worked for them in the past. And I'm like, well, define worked. And like, well, I did it for like 4 weeks and I lost 2 kilos. And then so what happened after that when you stopped doing that? And they're like, you typically drag the answer out of them, and it's something like this. Well, I did the 1,600 for 4 weeks. I was so freaking hungry. And then when it stopped, I just went back to normal eating and I put the weight back on. So like 1,600 never actually worked. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think there's two things. The first time you do it, what you're doing is you're actually making your diet healthier often. And so then you're having better, more nutritious foods, and then you're not retaining that fluid. So a kilo of it's usually fluid. And then the second part to that is anything that you do needs to be something you're going to do for the rest of your life.
True. Yeah.
And sometimes we do need to have challenges and things that we're doing to spur you on, to give you the motivation to do it. But what you've got to find is things that you can take from that you're going to do every day until it doesn't become a chore or a challenge. It becomes, that's what I do for my life.
Yeah. So what we haven't covered is, like, you're a doctor, right? And here we are talking to you about doctor things, but you train heaps. You love your training, right? Run us through your schedule.
Absolutely. So I am not a morning person, but I love starting my day with training. And so now I train at 5 a.m. most days. So 4:30 alarm, get to either the gym, or I've just started Pilates for the last 6 months, the first time in my life, because it's something that I need for my body. I just knew.
Why do you need it for your body?
I was getting CrossFit is the strength training that I've always done.
Yes.
And running. So I'm a sprinter. I love interval running. So I love CrossFit because it combines weightlifting with running and gymnastics, which I'm not great at. But I was starting to get lots of niggly injuries because of my traveling and going to and from the gym. So I was doing more sort of traditional strength training in the gym when I was on tour, and then coming back to these CrossFit things, mainly the gymnastics, and I was just injuring myself. And it just got into this cycle. I thought I need to do something about it. So the Pilates has helped with sort of that core strength and stability. And then, but I need the heavy lifting, and I love that. And then I love the running and the interval running. And I just love to be challenged and doing different things.
So what's your combination of weight training, strength to reformer at the moment?
So I'm doing 2 reformer classes, a HIIT type Pilates class and a strength type Pilates class per week. And then I'm doing 2 strength sessions, one at like as in with weights, like weightlifting.
Cool. Yeah.
And then I do interval running, like run club on the track on once a
Sunday
week.
Morning.
Yep. So it does sound like it's 7 days a week, but what I'll do is.
It is?
Well, it is, but I don't just train every day of the year.
Yeah.
So I've got something that I do on each day. And so, for instance, last weekend I was just like, I am sore everywhere. So I actually didn't train Saturday or Sunday because I needed that refresher, because your body needs that recovery. But then after training, so I train for 45 or an hour, grab a coffee, have a protein shake, and then I walk the Esplanade and for sunrise and love that that's mindfulness for me.
Love that.
And I notice when I don't do that, but it doesn't, for me, the walk is not exercise. It is absolutely mental health.
What do you notice when you don't do that? When you say don't do that, do you mean don't do the walk?
I notice when I don't do the walk, I'm just like more on edge. So it's like physically I feel good from the training, but there's something, because I'm consulting and talking like this all day at work, and then I've got my kids pre and post. So there's a difference. Like I do notice if I do one and not the other, and the combo is just the thing that works for me. And so from 4:30, I get back in the house about 7:30 and sort the kids out before.
So do you train then
school.
go for the walk? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Train,
So
grab a
daily
coffee, and then
thing,
go
the
for
walk?
it. Oh, well, I'd love it to be most.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep.
Most days. And then sorting the kids out. So I've had that 3 hours to myself at the start of the day. I am so much better prepared for my day. So to give you the opposite, so on the weekend I knew my body needed a rest.
Yep.
And so I would have just had one day off, but logistics with kids sport and all that meant I had to have 2 days off. And I could tell I was just grumpy and angry. And I had to do a lot of deep breathing to not get angry at my kids for different things. But it was also, I could feel my body recovering and I knew it's what I needed. So it's cool. Like there's a lot of time between what your emotions want and what your brain's telling you is best for you, and that's the struggle. And then as we get older and go back to perimenopause, you need more recovery time. Like it's actually a very real thing.
Did you struggle to have that 2 days off and convince yourself to do that, or you had to because of logistics?
I knew. No,
I knew. Did you feel guilty at all, or was it a good experience?
Yeah, so I absolutely don't feel guilty because and I understand that most people do, but the thing for me is I know it's the best thing for me, but I'm very well educated.
Yes.
So I get to a point,
Yeah.
So I get to a point where I'm like, I need to do this, and I know I'm going to suffer emotionally or mentally for doing this, but this is the right thing physically for my body. Yep. And so there's no guilt associated with that.
How would you suffer emotionally? Would you suffer emotionally?
Oh yeah, because you feel so good. You don't get the endorphins.
Right, so you don't train.
So you don't get the endorphins. So it's like just not having a coffee for a day.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm probably going to have a headache.
Yeah.
So I don't. So I tell the athletes that I work with, I said the hardest thing for a professional athlete to do is to not train, because we're wired to think, this is a problem and I'll just work harder and do it. But sometimes you got to work harder at resting and work harder at recovery.
Yeah.
And in perimenopause and menopause, you absolutely need more time to recover. Your body is in a pro-inflammatory state and it takes longer to recover. So what happens to a lot of women is they don't adapt to that and they say, oh, I just push on, I'll just push on. And then they actually get injured. They get structural injuries. And so that's the problem. I'm saying to these women all the time, you need to stop and recover. And I know it's hard. It's hard, but I know that I'm going to be better off because I know those 2 days off, I've trained like amazingly this week from having that refresher. I feel so good. But I think what happens to most women is they worry, I'm going to put on weight.
Yeah.
And you absolutely are not going to put on weight in 2 days. But I understand it's very real fear. And so that is the guilt. And then they'll say, I'll just go train. It won't hurt. I'll go easy. I'll do this. So what we're medicating is our mind, but we're actually making our body recover less. So we're not looking after our body to try and look after our mind. So what we've got to try and do is mindfulness and all of those different things to understand I'm doing something that's good for me to recover.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's really hard.
What are your thoughts on sauna and cold plunge pool?
Yeah, so again, these are like 1% recovery things. Absolutely great, but you can't eat a terrible diet, overtrain, don't get any sleep, and then go do your sauna and your plunge pool and be fine about it. Sleep is the most important recovery tool that we don't do well. But if you do everything else well, then absolutely sauna, and especially sauna for perimenopause, menopause with the heat and the actions in the body from that heat, and then the contrast between hot and cold, flushing out. There is a reason why professional athletes do these things afterwards, but that's their job and they have the access to, all of that to do.
Yeah.
So, you can go down the beach and get the sun and dive in the ocean as well. There's different ways to do things. I think also I'm a big believer, and this is just my personal belief, that some of the benefits, at least from that, are that people put their phone down.
Yeah. I know.
And just like I'm now so much more conscious, especially with kids coming through that age, that it's like screen time is just destroying us. And that's another form of, mental recovery, is just to be off screens for a bit.
Yep.
So there's lots of things that can help, but how many of them can you do in one day, and how much do you have access to?
What about, are there any myths when it comes to perimenopause that you wish would just die?
That the weight gain or the change in bone density is just inevitable and there's nothing you can do about it. And that it's too late to do something about. It's never too late. If you're alive, it's never too late to do anything, to make good, healthy lifestyle changes. And I think that, and then the biggest other one is that it's a problem of weight gain, and so then we've got to undereat or, reduce calories. Like that kind of link to calories versus weight is just, it's all wrong.
Yeah, cool. What about for women who are postmenopausal, say 5, 10, 15 years, what does the conversation become?
So it's all the same.
Yeah.
It's just go do resistance training, strength training. I think I didn't actually answer your question before about the training styles either. But so you absolutely, for the health benefits, need the heavy resistance training.
Yep.
And then all of the other options are great for cardiovascular health. So we should be training most days of the week, vigorous to moderate to vigorous intensity of both cardiovascular sort of endurance type work and the strength training. But as we get to perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, the strength becomes not an added option in. It's the thing that's most required.
Strength.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there's the balance and agility, and there's sort of for the bone health, particularly like the plyometric type jumping exercises. But the problem is that you can't look at those in isolation. So I had a patient who had really poor bone density, but also had a few other different injuries, and then was told to join this osteoporosis kind of exercise thing at class, which is great, but then was told to do overhead press heavy, but she had a shoulder injury. And so they said, well, it's more important to do this for your bone health than it is for your shoulder. So she just absolutely destroyed her shoulder and was in so much pain. And it's like, you can't just look at something in isolation. The older you get, the more important it is to do strength. It's never too late. Again, like my grandma was, 35 kilos wringing wet and half my height, and never trained a day of strength in her life. And I bought her this book that was called Strong Women Stay Young. And she started weight training, I think, in her 70s for the first time ever in her life. And she just put, the 2 kilo things that you strap on at home, and did the sit to stand and the, just followed this really basic home exercise program in the book. And she got off all her pain medication that she'd been on for 20 to 30 years for the first time ever. Wow. She'd fallen out of a car in her 20s and been run over by the car she was in. Wow. So she had like one of those big kyphosis, lots of chronic pain. And she started strength training in her 70s, and then was able to get out of all of off all the pain meds.
What are your thoughts on mobility as well as people age? Like what comes into your head when I speak about that? Like if people weren't doing their weight training, and they just let life be, do you see like the negative effects there?
Oh, it's scary to me. What's really interesting is people come and sit in front of me, and because I'm a doctor, they think that they get scared to tell me how much they're training. And they'll say, I'm probably doing too much, but I'm going to the gym every day, and blah, blah, or I'm lifting heavy and I know it's probably too heavy. And they start this, and I'm like, no one ever got too strong. Like, that's great. I said, I'd worry if you're saying, I don't want to do anything. I just want to lay in bed. I just want to fix it. Like, to me, people who do want to do nothing and they want to wait for them body to get better, the only thing that time heals is fractures, bone injuries. Time does not heal anything else. And so waiting around or being inactive, all it's going to do is you're going to accelerate your bone loss, you're going to accelerate your muscle loss. And that is, once you get to perimenopause, menopause, and this is for men and women, it accelerates anyway. So you're fighting against your own body. So we're losing. It's sort of like having a bucket with a couple of holes in it and it's leaking out. And then at that age, you just start jabbing holes everywhere in it.
And not moving, not doing anything.
And so the exercise is like plugging up some of those holes. Plus all of the other health benefits from it. So it is scary to me. A sedentary lifestyle is the scariest thing to me from a health point of view.
Wow, that's cool. That's awesome. A couple more questions. So to finish off, so for partners, kids, families, members listening, like what would you say to help them understand? So, like partners of women going through this, or the kids or people around them, like for them to have a great understanding of what, women are going through?
Yeah, I guess it's just to acknowledge that this woman who has had an identity or had a certain way of living her whole life, it's like it's suddenly changed. And you don't feel like, I don't know about you, but I don't feel like I'm getting any older. Like I think I'm still 25 and I look in the mirror and I'm clearly not 25, but you don't notice the change. And your body starts to let you down a little bit and you start to need more recovery and you're a bit more sore. But for women, it's like suddenly, and when I say suddenly, it's over a period of months to years, but everything changes. So you lose the identity of a fit, healthy, able person for a period of time until you adjust. And it is really hard. And especially women who have gone through that, having kids, raising them, maybe the kids are in high school, they're more independent, they've left school and it's like, oh, I've got time for me again. I'll get back into all these things I love. And they get back into playing sport, going to the gym, having more time. But then they keep getting injured, or they keep hurting themselves, or it hurts to do it, or they're angry, or they're not sleeping because of all the symptoms.
Progress might not be there, or whatever.
And they're irritable, and and it's just understanding that and not going like I have two sisters, so my dad was in a house of women, and he would, every time anyone was ever not pleasantly happy, it's like, oh, your periods. It's like, it's not always periods. And so the same thing, like it's not always going to be that, but it's not just like, oh, she's menopausal and dismiss it. It's just like the awareness and the understanding, the empathy, and then the support. And it might be that, you know, you don't feel like going and doing something, and a gentle encouragement, but also the contrary to that, if a woman says, I just really don't think I can today, she probably can't. Like she probably is feeling her body needs that recovery day. So they're not making her feel guilty about that. I think that's the biggest thing. It's supporting her in her quest to try and have a better, healthier life, but understanding that and not getting drawn into it.
Yeah, okay. If there's a woman listening to this right now, like maybe she's around the age of 45, maybe she's a tribe member, maybe she's not. Maybe she's thinking, oh my God, this whole conversation's been like for her. Like what's one thing you would like her to take away from the chat today?
I think it's going to be very hard to say one thing.
You can go 2 or 3.
Go join a gym. No, absolutely. Exercise.
Yep.
And speak out and go and see someone if you've got these symptoms. And if you don't get the answer you need, go and see someone else. Come and see me.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's, you know, like don't stop until you feel like you're being heard.
Yeah.
And when you're being heard, that's a really great place.
What do you mean by that?
So often women are quite intuitive and they know what they think is going on, but they dismiss it. So it takes a lot of courage to turn up and say, hey, I think I'm going through this because of this, this and this. And if the first person they see says, nah, that's just, that's rubbish, then they're going to be like, whereas when I see people and I say, oh, that must feel like this, or you must do this, or I understand that. And they're like,
finally.
It's so nice to hear you say that because I thought I was just going insane.
Yeah.
And so when you have been heard, it's like someone understands what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest step, because once there's understanding, it's like, okay, let's do something about this. Let's see what we can do.
That's awesome.
So
thank you. Is there anything that we haven't covered, do you think? Is there anything else? I mean, we've covered a lot, right? Under this.
Yeah. I think the most important thing, like the biggest takeaway, and especially since, you know, we're talking about physical activity and a gym, there's so much more to offer than just weights at a gym. It's a community. And so I'm a big believer of the benefits of exercise are way beyond just the physical benefits and the exercise itself. And, you know, I have my own fully fitted out rehab gym in my clinic, but there's a reason why I pay to go and do exercise somewhere else. It's so that I don't have to be my own coach, and it's so that I'm in a community of like-minded people.
Cool.
And that to me is so uplifting, and it makes me want to keep going back. And then it becomes a lifestyle, and then it's not like, you know, I say it to people, they say, oh, you're so good to get up and train every morning like that. And I said, that's like saying you're so good to go and have a coffee every day. Like it's not hard to go and have a coffee other than to bank balance. Yeah. But it's it's just a thing that you know you love. And that's how I view exercise as well. And I think that I would love, if I had a magic wand, I would make everyone in the world love exercise.
That's unreal. Well, Dr. Brandi Cole, thank you very much for your time today. It's been
awesome.
You're
welcome. It's been great.
Thank you.